months ago and been delivered to us, because quite frankly, that's the mayor's job to do.
Okay, so if the mayor's supposed to do that, do you not support the mayor and do you not look at what he gives you?
I look at everything he gives me.
Okay.
But that, you know, we were told that this wasn't feasible with no documents to back that up. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This guy calls me Friday. I don't have time to do that. I've looked at what I can look at, but you know, it's not something that I can do and go and compare in a day's time. I don't get, I'm not on a full-time payroll here.
All right.
That's the disadvantage we have.
Okay.
We had a question over here and then two in the back. Sorry.
What time frame are we looking at? I mean, are we talking 3 months down the road, we're going to raise water rates, or we're talking a month? I own the laundromat, so we know that my #1 utility is water. So do I need to go tomorrow and start raising my rates to try to recoup what I'm going to lose and possibly have to close? I can't raise rates 135% and stay competitive.
Does everybody understand what 135% is? I took my water bill. 141% has been floating around, okay? My water bill is $40.95. Of that, you know all your bills, $10 of that is trash and recycling, okay? We have some of the cheapest sewer rates around. Mine is $12.93, or $12.63. Okay, if my total bill is $40.95. If we went up 141%, it'd go to $63.80.
For two people.
If we did the whole thing.
For two people.
That's probably a consumption of.
I'm saying my bill, okay? I realize bigger users are gonna go up more, I understand that, but just to give you a comparison. It's going up $23 for me.
But I'm just trying to get an idea, you know, is this a decision that's going to be made tomorrow, 2 months?
If it goes through today, so what the process is, we're not even to the bond ordinance yet today. If the preliminary engineering report gets approved, if the recommendation to hire the consultants gets approved, if the first reading of the bond ordinance gets approved tonight, then I'm operating under the assumption that you could reasonably expect that rates will go up probably in December or January, would be half of the increase, so 67.5%.
But we don't know how you're going to allocate that yet.
Yeah, or maybe 70% and then
But I mean,
65.
what class? What are you going to do? Oh, everybody's going to pay it, or are you going to break it down, industrial, commercial? Is that something that has to be decided?
I think it's fair to assume that your rates are going to be fairly equal, whichever way you look at it. Is that, if we broke it down into classes or if we broke it down into how we are now?
The rate study hasn't been done. The recommendations haven't been made. I mean, that's part of what we're retained to do. Given the time, can I speak to the time frame for a minute? As we talked about last week, our recommendation is making use of the SRF program that says they will fund your project under the pool program. But to do that, you need to show them you're taking steps to be part of that pool program, to close or have bond ordinance adopted and new rates adopted in October. Okay. Specifically, they want a phone call from me tomorrow to give them the report on whether the PER resolution is passed and whether the first reading took place. Then they need us to provide them the amortization for the debt on Friday and a formal commitment from the city by the following Friday. That's my recommendation to get you to the point of having the project that you're proposing funded at the most reasonable rates. In between now and the adoption of the rates, we have to do a study. Based upon the raw numbers, we know that your revenues need to go up 135% and about 70% in the first phase. Given the time frame that we're working with, I don't see the first phase being anything other than an across-the-board increase. But there are opportunities to talk about the second phase that may improve that. And that's part of the study. So I wish I could tell you specifically, but I wouldn't be doing my job, and I potentially could mislead you to say they're going to go, everyone's going to see a 135% increase in their bill, because that's not what you pay us to do.
Ms. Swanson?
Your residents are pretty upset. They don't have faith in the administration anymore. They're not here to voice their opinion. You've got your movers and your shakers here who are trying to do and accomplish things. But in the past, there has been money for maintenance, and it wasn't spent on the maintenance. It's gone, it went somewhere else. Surely you can find that money and put it back. We've asked many times where that money went. You're not getting what your residents want you to get. These families are not going to be able to afford even a $10, $20 increase in rent. You've got a majority of your population in Delphi that live lower than what you're thinking. All of us here actually live better than what most of the people do in Delphi. And you will see them move out. We've got to have options. We've got to have figures, and we've got to have some other options. There are options out there. I've been a part of several meetings. There are options. Thank you.
Ms. Worley?
So, we've heard that Delphi towns really have the lowest water rates around when compared with other communities that are our size. So if people are gonna move out, where are they gonna move?
If you look at the report from the utilities company has to stay with the state regulations. We're out from underneath that regulation because the previous administration choosing to do that. They have to stay within a certain limit of what your water bill will run. And we have the figures, but you gotta meet with the people to get the information. The information decision does not need to be made tonight. We've been years coming to this point. Craig, you know, you spoke to me many times, many years ago, that we were going to be in trouble with things. He's tried to talk to the people and nobody's listened. So
They're not listening now.
Have you?
they're not listening now, but why is it such a rush?
We've
to make a
we've talked
decision
about
now?
the same thing since Lee Hort was here.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's been the same thing, but nobody wants to believe our experts, the people are supposed to be giving us advice. I mean, this is stuff we've got to do. We have to do it.
I guess that would be my comment. I mean, this is something that's an imminent problem we have to face. It's been ongoing for 20+ years. How much more time do we need to do our homework on the issue, I guess would be my comment.
That's,
You know, we
I
have,
mean, that goes,
we have
that
someone
goes,
who's provided what they think is the best possible option. That's what we're here to vote on, correct?
correct.
So how much more time, can the council give us an estimate on how much more time it would take? Because it seems like this is something we have to address sooner rather than later, correct? I mean, we can only put it off for so long.
No one is suggesting to not do anything. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like to see us immediately figure out where to get the money to hook up well 7 and put those maximum of 1,200 gallons a minute into the system, and then see where we're at from there. I'd like to see 5 or 6 ways to maybe help pay for this and not have to borrow money. But, you know, if we're bent on borrowing money, that's the only option we've been given, really. Frankly, I'd like to see it done without borrowing money, or borrow the minimum amount of money to get it done.
Superintendent Myers, you have a comment?
Yeah, I keep hearing that just hooking up well 7's gonna give us a short-term fix. That will give us water, but that still helps nothing with the South Hill. Our maintenance is gonna get more expensive, everything. 2 weeks ago, we had a leak on our main line, and nobody, hardly anybody in here knows how close we were to being out of water. And the mayor was there, police were there, it was bad. Tomorrow morning, it could happen again. It could happen Friday, it could happen whenever. We keep kicking the can down the road, like Brian says. We've been doing that ever since I've been here.
And that seems to be my take on the issue as well.
Yep.
You know, if rates go up, people could leave. If they run out of water, they're gonna have to leave.
Mr. Bradshaw?
That kind of thinking is why we've kicked it down the road for 20 years and we'll kick it down the road again if we keep thinking that way. If we do something and start right now, we've got a chance to head off a real problem. It's not a disaster now, but it really could be. And like you say, people won't move out because they won't want to pay their water bill, don't have any water. We need to do something, and we need to start now. And it starts with the 5 of you up there.
You yourself said the first thing to do is hook up well 7. I'm agreeing with you, Dick.
That's the first thing, but it's not the last thing. It's only the first part of a process to
Certainly.
get us the supply that we need and the distribution system that we need so that my children and your grandchildren will have the kind of water we have now.
We're agreeing on all that. We're disagreeing on where the money should come from and the impact that will have on the citizens and the ratepayers of the city. That's what we're disagreeing about. I'm not saying I'm going to turn my back and not do anything. I'm not saying don't do anything, and that's what I'm advocating. I'm saying immediately hook up well 7. Find the money, let's go. Find the money, get well 7 hooked up, and then proceed on down the road. I think,
On down the road.
not with the can, without the can.
Well, where are you planning to get 13 million and never have to get a loan?
Well, I never said 13 million.
Well, you're saying the majority of it.
I've got a list of 5 things here that I think we could do internally that would help us immensely, potentially. I mean, I think we immediately need to be applying for grants. I think we need to be negotiating with the redevelopment committee for TIF money and see if they will participate in this. I think we need to designate and appropriate money from Edit, Riverboat, and any other funds that we can do. Not clean them out, but designate money from them to help with this situation. We need to be considered loaning money from the general fund to the water fund, which we've checked with council on that. And the biggest restriction is you got to pay it back within a year. And first and foremost, back to you, Dick, I think that you guys ought to take a pledge to tighten the spending on the water fund and the water money that comes in. Freeze the spending. We've got a whole bunch of fleet of new trucks and new equipment down there that's going to last us for a while. Quit buying equipment, quit spending money out of that fund, and tighten it up to where that money that's coming in could be used for some of this stuff. So, you know, there's my 5 suggestions.
How much money do you think you spent 2 weeks ago on that leak, Greg?
If there's the money freeze, it'd be out of water, so.
And
The
that's
last week on
infrastructure
that water
money.
leak, we.
It's all the same money.
Well, it's all the same
We're
money,
10 grand easy.
but when you're buying trucks with it and things like that, which you don't necessarily need new vehicles for, and then expect the citizens to pay back $13 to $16 million in a water bond, I don't think that's very responsible. I don't run my house that way.
But it's only that way because it's been kicked down the road for so long that we're taking the big slam.
Yep.
That's the whole deal. I mean, it's so serious because it's been kicked down the road. We gotta quit kicking it.
I agree.
But we don't wanna waste 10 days going and finding 15 different people that called you and listen to their story. Have them send us information so we have it. Quit depending on the mayor.
I would agree with
If you wanna
that.
push that down us, bring the information.
I've got some of it right here.
Leaving these meetings and not having the solutions are getting us nowhere. Other than 9 o'clock and we're not even halfway through the freaking meeting.
I don't say much up here. Because number one, you don't pay me to say much. You pay me to write your checks, balance your books. And that's what I do. But I, in the same time, come to all these meetings and sit here and listen. And I'm paid big bucks to come to these meetings and listen to it. Now, when you start, and so many times it happens up here, somebody throws a little tidbit out, and everybody says, oh, well, we should have been doing that. We should have done this. We should have done that. Here's a fix. And Dale, I'm not picking on you. I'm not picking on you when I'm using you as an example at this point. But when you say to me, we can do this without ever borrowing money,
Didn't say that.
you said you would like to do that, Dale.
I'd like
Where
to
did you
study
get it?
this and potentially
Let me
not have to
tell
borrow
you, let
money
me
or as
finish.
much money.
Riverboat has 55,000 in it.
Mhm.
That 55,000 isn't gonna go much on what you're planning on doing. I don't care if you do it in stages. 55,000 isn't gonna do much. The estimated revenue for Riverboat the last 3 years has been $18,000 a year. We've used very little of it a year. There's $55,000 balance in there. You have a balance in it, but if you start using out of it, and we have emergencies, you don't have it. I understand, I'm not a certified public accountant. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a basic bookkeeper. And I know that some people will say, as long as you have 6 months reserves in the bank, you're in good shape. I don't think you should ever, as a municipality, sit back here and think that. I don't think you should. You can get yourself in trouble, serious trouble. But if you figure out a way to secure the fact that we have an issue with water, sooner or later we've been lucky. Perhaps we've been lucky, perhaps we don't have an issue. But I think we've been lucky, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way.
Right.
But if we don't figure out some way to do it and address it, and let me go just a little bit farther, because we talked about this earlier. People have said they're going to have to move if their bill changes. So I went into the system and I looked at some of these people's history, what they pay every month, whether their consumption is a 2 or 3. If their consumption is a 2, that's a whopping $12.81, and I included the tax change too. So $12.81 is what that person is going to contribute to taking care of this situation that we've got in water. I don't think that's astronomical.
It's 12 plus the 141%.
That's your difference. So their bill jumps from $26.74 to $39.55. They've been paying $26.74. They're going to pay $12.81 difference more.
That's for your total bill.
That's the total bill, $39.55.
But that goes on for 35 years if we do this bond.
But if we lived here for 35 years, your rate should go up anyway. You're not buying milk for what you bought a year ago or 5 years ago. You're not going to. And it's going to be more probably next year.
Rate increase the whole time we've been here. And we
But
had
it
that
was
money in the
brought
bank.
to us. It was brought to us previously in 2013. When we did the water and the wastewater, we were told then we should think about managing for the future.
Does that include what they were talking about too, of making, so that they can continue to do the maintenance, to take more money out? They
I
talked
don't
about it
think
the
that, is
last
that
meeting.
included now, John, when we're hollering these rate changes now? We're not including a maintenance plan, are we, or anything? Or are
Very, very broad strokes. I think,
Okay.
I mean, there is some, because you build it, you want to maintain it.
Mhm.
And so
I mean,
we're building,
Is that a percentage?
yes.
Or
We're
a
using,
flat, like a user $10 a month or $5 a month?
That's
or-
built into the rate.
it's,
So that's,
Fill into the rate.
so the only increase is gonna be what she just said. There's
Right.
nothing on top of that.
That 135% includes debt service, so the bond, debt reserve, which we have to keep a certain amount back. That includes operation and maintenance, what we have now in increased operation and maintenance costs, and then capital, what we have now in increased capital. Those are all included in that 135%.
That's not,
Now,
that's not how I understood it.
what
at
that
the
doesn't
meeting.
account for is inflation
Yeah,
and change in costs. So even, I mean,
and that could change, right?
what Mr. Julian was saying, don't wait 10 years to do a rate increase after this one. We're gonna have to keep up with inflation, but it's based, or should be based on current numbers over anticipated.
correct.
Did we have another question? Yes, sir.
You know, I just want to reiterate that I'm all for fixing this. I probably have, I'm sure Leanne can tell me, but I probably have one of the highest or higher water bills in Delphi. Been out there at the old low valve facility because next day is on my water bill that I pay. If I remember correctly, we installed new city water and sewer out in the industrial park here in the south end of town. Is there any chances that if we were to actually be able to track somebody out there that was a high water volume user, that this could lower our bills later on in the future? You know, one of the references, and I don't know if you would do about this or not, but Corn Nuggets was kicking around the idea several years ago about putting a facility in over here. There was a steel factory kicking around putting a facility out there, how many of those could we actually service with our current water?
Corn
If they
nuggets.
wanted to came here,
Well, corn nuggets, we didn't have the capacity on the water or the sewer side.
but if we could attract something like this, we fix this water issue, could that potentially drop our water bills later on with a large capacity user? Because right now, we couldn't service them if we wanted to. I mean, we had an extra million gallon. No?
Right, what's-
I mean, we couldn't I'm not sure we could service, you know, a small mom and pop load shop out there if they wanted it.
Oh, we
We don't have any water.
John, you want to answer the question?
Well, the answer to that, it's really, there's a engineering side of it and there's a financial side of it.
Well, I
If you-
guess on that.
If you have capacity to sell customers, most of your costs are going to be fixed because most of it's going to be the debt service and your labor costs. And so when you bring in a large volume user, the cost to serve them would be less than the revenues that they're going to pay. So conceptually, a lot of moving pieces here, but conceptually you have more revenue than you have needs for, and your rates by statute need to be cost-based. So if you were generating more revenues than you had costs, you would be compelled to lower your rates. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces there.
I agree, but I'm just trying to make a point that right now we couldn't service somebody else out there hardly if we wanted to, but yet we have, I forget how many acres is out there that we'd like to move to attract more businesses, and we can't do it. That's kind of the point I was trying to bring up behind it, let alone if we could attract one of those, the opportunity to maybe lessen the burden on the.
You have more sales to spread your costs over, and that makes the cost per user lower.
Yes, sir.
What would happen if Packers decided that they're done in Delphi? We've put all this money in, and now they're gone. And we're dependent upon their water bill to pay a lot of this, and now we're left with a big, huge bill. Companies move. I mean, they do it all the time, and they do stuff that doesn't make sense. I worked for Caterpillar, and in the 80s, they built a big steel structure out off 57 over in Illinois. It sat there for years. A lot of people have used it for all kinds of examples, usually biblical ones about not counting your costs before you do something. They finally knocked that down, but Caterpillar will up and move a company. They quit making on-highway engines for the sheer fact of just busting the union. Now, they don't even do that. They don't even make them anymore. I mean, that's a big, huge business that you'd have thought they'd have never got out of, and they're totally out of it. And they move billion-dollar plants on a whim because of cost.
The corporations make decisions for a number of reasons on where they locate and how they need to operate. But the two things that you can control are the providing the quality of service that they need and providing at the most reasonable rates. Now, there is a reason why your rates are lower than everybody else. It's because you have IPC here as a major water customer, okay? The reason this project is going to be this cost and not substantially more in terms of the 135% is because they are a major user. So they are both a blessing and a curse. Blessing in that they've kept your rates low to date, and they will pay their share of this project going forward.
I understand that, but what if they decide that cost is
Maybe
too
the
much?
question is, what may cause them decide to leave? And if they can't have the water they need, they would have to, just like any other business or homeowner in town, if they can't have water, it's essential to their business.
But that's not what he's asking.
That's the question that should be asked by you. What's going to
That's
cause?
what he's asking.
If they closed up, if they decided that, okay, their bill goes up 135% or whatever reduced rate they get, that's a pretty substantial increase for them. Business is all about bean counters. They don't care a thing about the people. They don't care about nothing but money. Business proves that over and over again. They lay off on a whim, they don't care when they lay off, they've laid off at Christmas time, they've laid off whenever. If they decide that they're done, how, that 135% now becomes what, 600% for us?
Not 600%, but it's going to go up because
All
the
right.
cost, yes, that is a risk.
I mean, what if you walk out and go to your car and you get hit by a car?
Well, I know that,
I mean,
but
that's speculation. What if we don't run out of water? We all
Well-
don't have the crystal ball that's gonna tell us, we don't
Yeah,
know,
well,
but if we
that's-
can't give them water, they're not staying.
I know, I understand that.
But that's an important question.
What if they left?
You can't answer it. Hey, where do
Sure
you
you
get
can.
where do you get an answer to that?
Sure you can. It's
Where?
a hypothetical. If they leave, what will that do to the citizens' rate
They
structure?
told us that in the first meeting. It's gonna
Well,
run the price
we've got a
right
lot
up to
of new
everybody
people
here.
so
If we go on hypotheticals, we'll never get anything done.
We'll never get out of it.
Never come to the situation, I mean, Jesus, I mean, guys, you know, I've been here 13 years, and when I came, I heard in that election, man, we gotta do something about our water. I've been to numerous meetings, and we've talked about grants, we've talked about all kinds of things. We'll get to the point where politicizing it, Dale, and that's exactly what you're doing.
You're out of your mind.
No, I'm not.
Gentlemen,
This is getting to be ridiculous in that. We need to make a decision what's best for Delphi. Nobody wants to pay more. I don't want to either. We're a sale economy now. We want everything cheap, cheap, cheap. But there's some things you gotta pay for. So we have to make the decision to do it or not. And if we don't, the water goes out, everybody has to understand, a big main goes out or something, the town doesn't have water, and it may take a month or two, it may take a year to get water. You just can't turn the tap on or do a valve. That's what they're saying right now. We can't service our tanks, which have never been serviced, one's got mold in it, because we don't have the capacity to turn one down to clean it and do it. See, a big part of this is delayed maintenance. We need to think about that. It's not gonna be. Like Craig said, we have such bad infrastructure up the hill, Mr. Greenwich, you complain about the pressure and everything. All we do is put new mains in and get things done. And we're all saying, well, gee, what if, what if?
Whole meeting back to work.
We just have to make a decision.
We're gonna do one more question, then we're gonna take, say, 7-minute intermission.
I got one question, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
For John. John, what is entailed in the first stage of the project?
Actually, it's probably better by Matt.
Huh?
Could Matt answer that?
Sure.
It's an engineering question.
Right, so phase one would be new well 7, building, security, disinfection. Phase 1, new well number 7, putting that online with new building, security and disinfection. Hydrogen sulfide removal equipment, Carrollton Road tank and booster, well 3 to well 5 water main, and well 7 to the system water main.
We're gonna take one more, then we're gonna take a little break.
I just want to inject, I think that if anything, this could help us with the hog plant. I mean, only you guys know better than I do what their actual water bill is, but I know that they're aware of the issue because I know employees that work out there that'll make comments that towards the end of the week, they're asked to conserve their water in their production facility. I spent 3.5 months working out there last year, and I know we missed out on a phase of that plant that Delphi could have had if we were going to provide more water, but they knew that there was not adequate water to handle that new phase of that plant that we missed out on.
And they just invested almost $100 million in that
They did.
storage facility.
And they're talking about
You go in there, it's all computerized.
Yep, that's what we worked on last year, and they're talking
Right,
about another.
exactly.
So obviously it's
They're
not-
investing money here, you know.
Why aren't they here?
Why aren't they here? Because at the end of the day, I think it's a small cost to them.
I was just
of
curious,
doing
I asked
business.
that question last meeting, why
What's that?
IPC's not here?
How did the meeting
Biggest-
go with them this week?
Biggest consumer we got, and they're not here.
I've got to get Ice Miller in a contract to get some documents together. I talked to John Reward from IPC, what's the day, Tuesday? Talked to him Thursday or Friday last week. So, waiting to get together, but we need some documentation first, which means getting them under contract, which means figuring out where we're going with this project.
What are their thoughts, though? I mean, are they letting them know what their thoughts are?
I'm not gonna speculate on that. When we have everything on paper and get it, then we'll know. But if it's all right with the council, let's take a brief 9-minute recess. We'll come back at 9:25 and meet again.
You all get to ride the bus. The bus pulls out.